Hey, thank y'all for coming and welcome to the 4th annual Economic Update Luncheon, co-hosted between the Greater Chattanooga Association of Realtors and the Home Builders Association of Greater Chattanooga. I'm Nathan Waldorf. I'm the president of GCAR, of the Greater Chattanooga Association of Realtors. So if you look around, we've got a great crowd today. More than 230 practitioners are here. So from the industry, yeah. And that includes builders, realtors, and we have several affiliate, kind of folks who are affiliates in our business and in the community. So, and this is also the largest crowd that we've ever had since we began partnering to do this event with the home builders a few years ago. So thank y'all for coming out. Let's see, and we're going to have NAR's, National Association of Realtors. Jessica Lautz is going to be speaking to us in a little bit, and I'll introduce her pretty soon. But first I want to call up the home builder president, Chris Mabey.
Thank you, Nathan. First of all, just exciting to see so many faces here today. It's always good to see this kind of attendance. I'm Chris Mabey. I'm the president of the Home Builders Association, and I'd like to take just a quick opportunity to introduce a couple other members from our association that are here today. First, Terry Green is our executive officer. Terry's been with us for about a year and is doing a fantastic job for us. Terry, if you want to wave to the crowd. Also with us is Mike Croxall. Mike Croxall is our vice president this year and is also president of Croxall Construction. And our association has a bright future with Croxall. Like Mike Croxall. This is a meeting that I truly look forward to each year. I think it's just fantastic. Anytime there's a chance for two organizations like ours to come together, great opportunity for networking, and I think there's a lot of potential to learn a lot from each other. We're also very, very fortunate. We always bring in great speakers for these meetings, and I think that's going to continue today. I'm looking forward to hearing from Jessica Lautz shortly. Before I turn it back over to Nathan, we'd just like to express a special thanks to the realtors in the room on behalf of the Home Builders Association for the role that y'all play in our industry. It's a vital role. As home builders, we take pride in building a quality product, but it doesn't matter if we build the nicest house in the world if we can't sell it. So thank you all for helping in that end, and thanks especially for when you sell my houses. But with that being said, thanks again. Welcome everybody, and I'll turn it back over to Nathan.
Hi, thank you, Chris. And we definitely appreciate our builder friends too, and think this is a natural partnership. So I'm glad we've been doing this together last several years. I also wanted to recognize a few people at our head table. Vicki Trout is our MLS president. So yes. And Ron Tucker, he's our governmental affairs chair. Carol Seal is our CEO, so the association. And Travis Close, not at our head table, but he's our TAR divisional vice president. So thanks for being here. You're now dignitary, Travis. Hey, we wouldn't be able to do this today either without our sponsors, and we have several sponsors who came today So if the following sponsors could come up and join me up front, that'd be great. They're going to address this briefly for about a minute. So Nikki Phillips with EPB. Is she here by chance? Yeah, come on up. And we've got a representative with First Volunteer who's going to come up, we think. Yeah, there we go. David Herrick also with the Professional Real Estate Inspection Services. Patty Backnell with Prime Lending will also come up, I guess, in a minute. And Herb Pettit. Herb's just going to wave at everybody is what I heard. Is that right, Herb? There he is. So, yeah, y'all go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Real briefly, we are a third-generation inspection company. We've been doing home and commercial inspections since the early 1980s. We have seen a lot of that change over that time frame. We're not scared of older houses and things of that nature. We do a lot of, when your general home inspection for buying and selling, we also do a lot of commercial inspections for doctors moving into new offices, needing punch lists and things to do, for large complexes that need to know what's going on so they can move that flowing through. We also do some other things. This time of year we have a lot of people with respiratory issues. They're complaining about some coughing and things like that because of the amount of humidity in crawl spaces. We're all running our HVAC at as cold as can be when it's 90 degrees outside. There's a lot of moisture in the crawl spaces. So we come out and check things of that nature. Being a family-owned and operated company, we'll either hear from me or down or from my dad. And we call him. And I get sent through a bunch of hoops to jump through. And we can fit in your schedule. We try to move our life around your client's schedule. So if they need something on a Saturday night, we don't want to do it, but we do it. So we know real estate isn't just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We're there Saturdays and Sundays if they need us. If you need a question answered at 10 o'clock at night, they usually be either me or Donna that will answer that question. We've had situations where the closing table, something is held up. either a structural thing that was donated somewhere or an appraiser called something out and then needs to come back out, we will get out in a hurry, make that happen, and we will get you the paperwork and get your documentation you need. We always say we're there to facilitate your transaction. We don't try to hold anything up, we just help you move through. For builders, we do a lot of things like punch lists for clients that are going to do home, and they have us come through and give them a punch list of here's what we're going to have our builder fix and work on. We do that for builders as well. If they have a lot of things going on, we can come through and be their eyes and ears on site, so they know, make sure that the installation is done and things like that. Again, I'm Alex, and we have David down over there. If you guys have any questions, all our information is on the table. Feel free to take anything out there. Leave your card in our basket. We have a gift card we'll be drawing later tonight, and take care.
Hey, I'm Patty Beckville with Prime Lending. I'm here representing our group. We've got two offices, one on Shelter Road and one in downtown Chattanooga in Liberty Tower. And it's great to be with you guys tonight. It's good to see a great group, and I am glad. I know each year at the beginning of the year, we never know what the year is going to bring for us. Is it going to be low rates? Is it going to be a busy activity period? And we have had a spectacular year. Don't you all agree? This year, I mean, we're all running 90 miles an hour 7 days a week. But it's all good, and we all know what change is, and we've had lots of change. And one good thing with Prime Lending, we're doing our CDs, you know those little things that have to be done 3 days before closing. We've got them going to borrowers sometimes at 10:30 at night, and as long as they sign before 1 o'clock our time, which is 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, we can get that loan closed. If it's on Tuesday, we're closing Friday. So we are working around the clock, which is wonderful with our company. And so we have a dedicated group of people that back us up. We've got about 8 loan officers in Chattanooga and surrounding areas and 1 in Dalton. And definitely look us up if you guys want to get your loans closed on time. We'll do whatever's needed to get it done. And hey, we appreciate your support of your business. And call us if we can ever help you. Thanks so much.
So thank you all so much who have, for all of our sponsors who have sponsored this event. That's great. We're happy to have you here. So yeah, we have a few other just kind of GCAR announcements to make. And also wanted to say, before you leave, make sure you shake hands with one of these folks. Get to know our sponsors. That would be great. They're good folks. But let me go into a few different announcements. On August 16th, there's going to be a TREC education seminar. If you're a broker in the room, this is a really good thing for you to go to. So would highly encourage brokers or really anybody else to go. You can get 1, 2, or 3 free CE hours and also find out about some of the TREC changes, meet the TREC executive director, the new TREC executive director, and the TREC attorney will be teaching the class. So it should be really good. August 25th, we're having a GCAR after hours with a lot of these sponsors will be there as well at Clyde's on Main. That's a fun event. It starts at about 5 to 7, and so it's really, that was just an informal gathering, so feel free to come on out. And then December 13th is that right, or is it a typo? December 13th. I know it says December though. Okay, is the deadline for all realtors that have completed the ethics training. Okay, so yeah, so make sure if you haven't taken that new ethics class, you need to take it. Georgia has their own new class as well, so you might want to look into that and make sure you've got it. So anyway, so we're really here to hear from Jessica Lautz, who is the Managing Director of Survey Research and Communications with the National Association of Realtors. And you know, the core of her research focuses on demographics or demographic trends from both NAR members and housing consumers, and issues such as how housing preferences have shifted in an ever-changing market. The consistent trends of consumers for the desire to own a home. So she's going to come speak to us about all of those things, for how consumers search for homes, find their real estate agent, and even generational trends. And I'm sure there'll be some design elements thrown in there too, what's popular now in the home. So she writes the member profiles, commercial member profiles, profile of home buyers and sellers generational trends report, investment vacation home buyer surveys, profile of buyers' home feature preferences, remodeling impact, the home survey, and profile of real estate firms. So she's got a lot of good information in her head. She also manages the research, content, and presence on Realtor.org's and their social network sites. So she's a big part of what goes on that blog, which is a great blog if you haven't taken a look at it. So I'm going to call her up and get out of the way and let her speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I am really excited to be here today. This is actually my second time to Chattanooga. The first time I came in 2008, I think, 2009. I'm really sad, though, you guys did not time this with the Cornbread Festival, because that's what I went to last year, last time I was here. And I think I had the most cornbread I've ever had in my entire life. But that was really an amazing event. So, but wow, Chattanooga has really changed. Such an incredible city. And it was really nice to walk around last night. I have a good friend who's actually a realtor. He's hiding in the back of the room, Sam Duke, if you want to wave. And so I got to have dinner with him last night, and that was really a really nice dinner, and good to be here. So I'm going to jump into a bunch of data. I made my charts pretty, so hopefully it won't be too boring. I know, sigh. I am going to try and walk a little bit, because I'm better if I walk. And I've only had 3 coffees, so please bear with me. And please don't fall asleep. If you do, I'll just call you out and walk over, because now I have a moving mic. All right, so we have a lot of changes that are happening in the country right now. But there's a lot of media rumors out there that are also talking about these changes that are just not true. And it's really frustrating when you see these articles and you're like, no, that's not, no. One of the big rumors that's out there is that millennials, Gen Yers, those who are like 18 to 35 years old, I go squarely into there, they say that they never want to own a home. And I can tell you, we do want to own homes. There's a lot of things stopping us if we can't get there, but people do want to own homes. The other one is there's this exodus from the suburbs. Everyone's moving downtown to the cities. Well, Chattanooga is absolutely gorgeous. It's vibrant, it's a beautiful city, and it's definitely revitalized, but not everyone can live downtown. So this is another rumor that's out there. And the last one is one of my favorites. Every single baby boomer in this room, you're selling your house, right? You're moving to Florida. Like, you guys are on the next train out of here, and Florida's gonna become this little island that's out there in the middle of the ocean, and it's gonna float away with the keys. Okay, so that's not true either. I hope not. All right, so there's a lot of rumors, and I'm gonna squash some of these rumors during my presentation, but I wanna start out with a few facts too, because these facts are really dominating the country as a whole right now, and they're dominating economics, and they're dominating the housing industry. So one of them is by 2045, and some of these you guys probably know, so I'm probably just repeating stuff that you guys have heard from other academics out there, but by 2045, we are going to be a majority minority country. In fact, if you're a kindergartner today, and you're going back to school shopping, well, I guess just school shopping for a kindergartner, you are probably a minority in this country. So that is a pretty interesting fact. And millennials have now overtaken baby boomers. They are the largest generation. They're the largest generation the US has ever seen. And there's a lot of them. And they're all doing really different things. And so every time they do a little bit of something, it does tip the scale. And I'll talk about that too. All right, so what these facts lead into, unfortunately, is that our homeownership rate has dropped to a 50-year low. And this was just released just a couple weeks ago. And it does continue to drop. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of economic benefits to homeownership. We know that. We work in the real estate industry. We're home builders. Everyone knows the amount of jobs that it adds to the economy, the amount of stability it adds to a family's life. but it also adds social benefits. So when you look at homeowners and you look at renters, and there's all these academic studies out there, and they get really nerdy, and they get really nerdy fast. But I'm working on my doctorate, so I get to read this nerd stuff. It's super fun. Let me tell you, that's a Saturday. Pool reading for sure. Highlighter and everything. Kid doing cannonball over my head? No, I want to read about the social benefits of housing. So there are social benefits of housing. And we know these. It gives stability to a community, to a neighborhood. It increases civic participation. People want to go out and vote. They want to volunteer in their community. They want to help out with schools because they're part of it. And they own that now. And those are out there. And so this is an unfortunate drop. Yeah. All right, so I'm starting out on bad stuff. Okay, one of the other things that we've seen, we have been doing the profile of home buyers and sellers since 1981. A lot of cool things happened in 1981, including Beyonce being born, Paris Hilton, IBM releases its first PC, Reagan was president. I mean, that was a different era. Yes, I was born in 1981. A lot of cool things happened then. So when we look at these trend lines, we have this trend line data, and we can look at the changes that are happening among recent home buyers. And these are home buyers who purchased a home in the last year. And unfortunately, we're seeing that their income is going up, their household income. And what that really talks to is tightened credit conditions. But it also talks to people who can actually purchase a home right now, who can overcome these barriers who are in the market: affordability, rising home prices, rising rents that they have to save while they're paying these rising rents. They're overcoming these things, but these are really like these special home buyers that are out there. So they're a little different than the home buyers that were 10 years ago. One of the other things that we've seen is that we've seen a drop in single female buyers. I'm not sure, I'm sure, well, let's take a little poll, then I'll be sure. How many of you worked with a single female buyer? How many of you were a single female buyer? All right, so a little of both. It used to be 1 in 5 were single female buyers in the marketplace, and today that's dropped into the teens, unfortunately. And it really talks to the buying power that a couple has, or an unmarried couple in the market, and they can really bring 2 incomes, and when you're competing for a bid, perhaps a little more of a down payment. And today we're not seeing that. We're seeing that number drop. The other thing that we're seeing here is the first-time home buyer share drop. And really these two things work hand in hand, because many of our single females are first-time home buyers in the market. They're starting out, they're saying, hey, I have a good job, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna do this by myself because I can. And they're out there and they're purchasing a home. Or perhaps they are a widow or a divorcee, and so they have kids with them in tow as well, and so they're purchasing a home. When we look at the first-time home buyer share, we can see that today it's dropped to 32%. And the historical norm since 1981 was 40%. All right, a couple of other numbers I'm going to point out here. In 1987, that's the last time it was this low. 1987, who was working in real estate in 1987? I know there's some of you in here. Don't be shy. All right, yeah, there we go. There's the hands, all right. All right, so in 1987, you probably remember the end of the year, double-digit interest rates. It was Black Monday. That is not a holiday. There was a horrible stock market crash, not to be confused with Black Friday. And so it was a very, very different economic environment in that time frame. Very different from what we see today. Today we actually see GDP growth. We do see low unemployment, not underemployment. We see low unemployment. We also see very low, historically low interest rates. So there's a lot of factors that are working behind that first-time homebuyer share being that low. That 50%, I know a lot of you were working in real estate then. That was the first-time homebuyer tax credit, right? Who was working there in real estate then? Yeah, most of you. So some of the questions that I get behind this are, well, that first-time homebuyer tax credit, could that be responsible for today's low number of first-time homebuyers? What the academic studies, again, NAR are saying, is that sure, for a couple years, but not this far. 2010 was 6 years ago. If you were on the border of buying a house, maybe you were on the border, and perhaps you would have purchased in 2012, 2011, but 2016 is pretty far off. So by now, that's probably not you. So part of this is that many of our first-time home buyers would be millennials. They would be in that 18 to to 35-year-old crowd. And they're pulled in a lot of directions. Student loan debt is one. I'm going to go into detail about that, so I'm just going to leave that right there. But rising rents are another one. So if you're chalking away money each month, and many of the markets in the country are completely unaffordable, you're putting more than 50% towards your rents, and that's it. Not your food, not your child care, not anything else that should cost quite a bit of money every month. More than 50%, you're probably not going to be saving for a home. And I know Chattanooga is a very affordable place for purchasing a home, but even here, you guys are seeing rising home prices. So as you see these rising home prices, it's probably going to be a little bit out of reach for other buyers. And then flat wages. So if you graduated, say like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, in the height of the recession, you probably had a little bit of difficulty finding a job, and then you had a little bit of difficulty ever getting a raise. So you're kind of stuck there. When we talk about affordability, we're collecting this data on a monthly basis, really so we can track it nationwide. We want to see what changes have been happening and how this really impacts people in the country right now. And so we started collecting questions on, do you think that homeownership is part of your American dream? Consistently, that's unchanging. But one of the things that is changing is affordability. And people, homeowners, are saying, sure, absolutely, now is a great time to buy a home because they're seeing their home equity increase. And they're saying, yes, it's a great time to be a homeowner, not necessarily maybe buy a home, but affordability is okay. But when you cut that and you look at renters, or those who are living with someone else, perhaps mom and dad in their basement, they're not going to think that now is necessarily a good time to purchase a home because they're having these economic pressures. And so that is something to be cognizant of when you're working with these first-time buyers, because they're probably a little scared. When we ask them about qualifying for a mortgage, we also see that 60% don't think that they could qualify. So really talking them through that, I think there is a bit of an understanding breakdown too, where a lot of people think that you need 20% down to purchase a home, especially first-time home buyers. So they're saving and saving and saving, but not realizing there are really good programs out there for buyers to take advantage of, where they could put a smaller amount down, be very secure in their home, be very comfortable, and take advantage of these programs. So educating them is also very important on that. I know that it just adds one more thing to your list of very superhuman powers that you guys are doing every day. This is especially true when we look at this by different data cuts as well. Those who make lower incomes, those in the West regions where your median home price is well over $500,000, they're absolutely going to have a hard time qualifying, and they know that, and they're going to think affordability is a problem there as well. All right, here's another one. Competition in the marketplace. So Airbnb, I guess it's pretty huge everywhere. I take advantage of Airbnb. I love Airbnb. But Airbnb is absolutely impacting the market. So are things like HomeAway, making it easier to rent someone's home. It's great. I mean, I stay in a lot of hotels, I go places, but it's really nice to stay in a house. It's really nice to be able to take a break from that vacation. So people are taking advantage of these services, but in doing so, there's a lot of vacation buyers and there's a lot of investors in the market. And they're really competing for the same homes as, say, a first-time home buyer, because it's the same square footage, it's a condo, it's a smaller floor plan, but they're paying all cash. Or they're paying 50% cash, and they can have a quick closing because they're putting down all cash, and they may not have contingencies, and they're willing to pick up that distressed sale. So there's a lot of competition in that very small area of homes where we need more homes in that area. All right, transition, student loan debt. More surveys. I've done a lot of work on student loan debt in the last couple of years. I pretty much came home every night, and I took custody of my little sister when she was 16 years old. She lives in my basement, in her purple bedroom, in her purple bathroom, and she's a joy, I will say that. Not sarcastically, because it's being live streamed, so she is a joy, absolutely. All right, she really is, Shannon, I love you. So she has student loan debt. She has just graduated from college in May. We live in DC, the job market is good. She works in a nonprofit now. She's paying her student loan debt. All right. I know the median age of members, so who has a kid who has student loan debt or knows someone who has student loan debt? If not, every hand is going up. You guys are lying. Come on. Yes. I am currently still paying my graduate student loans. Yes, it's fun. I'm slow playing that one and taking on not more. So what we do know is that student loan debt has gone up. It's $1.3 trillion in the US economy. Yeah, it is second only to mortgage debt. If I showed you a chart right now, and I didn't add this in here because I thought that I would go way too over on student loan debt, during the recession, every other type of debt deleveraged. People are like, I'm not taking on more credit card debt. I'm not buying a car right now. That's crazy. But student loans, you're investing in your own human capital. So you absolutely take on a student loan. You absolutely go back to school because you got laid off in the recession. You unfortunately encourage your son or daughter to take on student loans because perhaps you can't take the equity in your house, or you can't pay for it like you would have in the past because you need to save that money. So student loan debt increased. And also, when property taxes go down, unfortunately, higher education is one of those things that gets cut. The other thing that happened is there was a huge rise in tuition. So the cost was placed onto the students. So we can see on this chart that medical and CPI is Consumer Price Index. So all of these things are lower, even rent. Even rent, which is increasing up to 20% in some areas on a year-to-year basis, even that's lower than the rise in tuition. So 1 in 5 Americans today has student loan debt, 1 in 5. It's not the student loan debt necessarily. It's not, if you can pay it, this is good. You're investing in yourself, you have a job, you can pay it off. The problem that we're seeing, however, is just 55% of student loan debt holders are actually paying their bills. 55%, that's it. 45% of people with student loan debt are in default, forbearance, in their grace period, have deferred their loans for some reason, have talked to their lender, but they're still accruing interest all this time. So because I got the inside scoop on my little sister and she's in her grace period right now, we watched her student loans. She graduated in May, she's in her grace period. You shouldn't have to pay anything in your grace period, but we watched every month as her interest ticked up over and over and over again, just adding on. And so now she is paying in her grace period because she lives at home for free, so why not? And I work on this, so you should pay your student loans. She's very nervous now. That's the problem, is if you're not paying your student loans, you're probably gonna have your credit impacted. You are, you're gonna have it dinged. And the bad thing is that lenders of student loan debt, a lot of people think, well, it's a government loan, it's really not gonna be affected. Unfortunately, it is. They can garnish your Social Security, they can garnish your wages, they can give you 20% interest rates, double-digit interest rates, absolutely, no problem doing that. So that's stinging a lot of people. And I think there's an awareness problem there too, in knowing that that's happening. We really wanted to dive into this at NAR. We really wanted to understand the implications to housing. Okay, we know all those facts. Those are all out there from people from the New York Fed, but what does this really mean for housing? So what we did is we partnered with SALT. It is a entrance-exit counselor, provides counseling for people with student loan debt. If you give them a call, if you're overburdened, they'll help you out. So they have a population of people in their database who are paying their student loans, and they're paying them on time. They're in that 55% category. And we surveyed them, and we surveyed, our responses were over 3,200 responses, so it is statistically sound, reliable data. And what we found is that among non-homeowners, overwhelmingly, they do feel a delay from purchasing a home. I know people, and I've heard these stories, and I've seen the comments in here, people are paying thousands of dollars a month in their student loans. And that's just a bachelor's degree. Sometimes it's a master's added on, but it's a lot. And so if you're paying $1,000 a month, perhaps you have childcare too, you're really gonna push yourself out of homeownership. And those were some of the comments that we were reading that were not very uplifting. So the bigger question, my title got cut off there, but the bigger question is, okay, if you're a homeowner, is this impacting you? Are you able then to move on to a different home if you have this student loan debt, especially if perhaps you took on this debt later in life? And what we found is that a third of the homeowners who were surveyed in this survey say that no, they can't move on to a bigger home. And it is because their student loan debt. Either their credit was dinged in the past, or they just can't take on more payments, a number of reasons. Or they're underwater in their mortgage because they were just paying the minimum, and that's all they could pay. So there's some depressing data on student loan debt. I have much more in my head because it is apparently a fascinating topic for me. So here's a more uplifting note, though. One of the things that we know from our home survey is that if you can go out there and purchase a home, people want to. Renters want to in the future. They don't want to be renters forever. And I think we know that when we talk to our friends and family who can't purchase right now, they absolutely do. And they say this overwhelmingly. We're not seeing a change in this. They want to own a home in the future. And we actually see this more so for millennials, for the younger generation. In fact, poor millennials are really optimistic their situation is going to get better, and they will be able to rent a home or buy a home in the future. And I think that speaks to the optimism in the country. The American dream is home ownership, and it's really there. It's staying, and it's not going anywhere. It's just they're in a situation, either financial or they need the flexibility right now. Perhaps they're just out of college, in the military, just got a divorce, can't necessarily purchase a home right now. So there's all those depressing facts, but here's a really surprising one. For the third consecutive year, millennials are the largest generation of home buyers. You have to have worked with one because they're out there. They're not hiding in the woodworks because they are such a large generation. And this is really a numbers game. Because there's so many of them, there's a lot who can't get out there and go and purchase a home right now, but there's a lot who can, and they are out there and they're buying homes. Oops, okay. When they go out to purchase homes, millennials and first-time home buyers, they overwhelmingly are going out there not for tax benefits, not for a financial reason, not for all of those like economic purposes that economists are always like, yeah, you should purchase a home for that reason. No, it's an emotional, it's a psychological reason why you go out and purchase a home. You want that home of your own. You want to have that housewarming party and be like, this is my home. That's an incredible experience. It's an incredible feeling. I'm sure you guys have seen the tears as they get the keys. I mean, I was there, I was crying. I was like, oh my God, this is mine. I actually own it. This is so cool. And they appreciate the value of what you provide to them. In fact, millennials and first-time homebuyers are more likely to use you than repeat buyers. They're more likely to want your help. This is the first time they've gone through the process. They want you to help understand the process. What is the paperwork? What's the next step? And they probably call with a lot of questions or text you with a lot of questions, one or the other, probably text. No lens shift. I don't know what that actually means. Okay. Okay. Oh, they're adjusting. Thank you. All right, so here's some other positive note. People are actually purchasing homes with that student loan debt. Probably the ones who are actually paying their student loan debt because they made it through the credit process. But they are actually purchasing a home. So a quarter of home buyers did have student loan debt when they purchased a home last year. Much more common among the younger generation, but it is still common among older generations. So let's keep this 11% in mind when I go to the next slide. We asked them the amount of student loan debt. We actually found that while younger home buyers have about $25,000, so that's about the national average, a little lower, our older home buyers actually have more student loan debt. So one of the reasons there is that they're taking on plus loans for their children. So if you had a kid who recently went to college or a niece or nephew, they said, okay, I'll take on that debt, that's too much for you, or we've maxed out the amount that you can take, so I'll just take that on. Or they're going back to school themselves and saying, I really want to get that certificate or an added degree, and I can't do that without taking on that debt. So they're willing to take that on as well. All right, here's my boring chart. This is the most boring chart ever, but I want to put it in here. Yes, all caps, this is boring. Why do I put this in here? Because there's a lot of arguments out there, and they're saying that millennials are delaying marriage, and they're delaying child rearing, and they're delaying all of these things in life. So obviously, homeownership goes into that bucket too. No, this is the one argument that I have. And I disagree with a lot of people who are out there saying that. And the reason why is because I look at this age from 1981 to today, and it is a flat line. People really purchase a home at the same age, and they have for the last 30-some years. They're really not changing much. The first-time homebuyer median age is not 45 years old. If you can get out there, if you can pay down your debt, if you can save the money, if you can live in the purple basement in your bedroom, in your sister's house, you're probably saving a little bit. So you can go out there and purchase. I know that's her goal. Once she pays off her student loan debt, she is saving right now for a condo in DC. It's going to be the smallest little condo in the world, but it's going to be hers, and she's going to be very happy about it. And it's probably going to be purple too. And then my grocery budget will go down. That's amazing. But hopefully she gets out there before 31, but it might be 31. We'll see. But this is her goal, and I think that it's a lot of goals of a lot of people doubling up. And talking about doubling up, that has doubled since the 1980s. Because they are the largest generation, there are more than ever they are living at home. And it's not a bad thing. It's really not, I joke. But what we've seen is that the economics do work. You can split the bills, you can help out mom and dad or sister, you can pick up the groceries every once in a while. So it actually does work. And it works in a lot of cultures. It's not something that's new. It's something that's very old. It's something that the Pope even talked about when he was here. And he was asked, how do I get my son out of the basement? And the Pope replied, stop ironing his shirts. So, I mean, it's not something that's new. It's very common. It's very common among young males more than young females. Young females, much like that, the higher share of female buyers, they want to get out there. They want to do their own thing. So it's very interesting the young males are living at home. So I guess it's good that my sister's not a boy. So she lived there forever. But we do see this. And we see this that once you're employed, it's much less common to want to live at home because you're gainfully employed. Let's go get a roommate situation. Let's do something to share the costs in a different way. Among recent home buyers, 1 in 6 younger boomers do purchase a home that's a multi-generational home. So either an aging parent living there, perhaps living in a tiny home, granny shed in the backyard, and then they have the younger kid who's above the attic, and then 40% of them actually have someone who's under 18 in their house too. So when you're working with this type of buyer, the joke that I make that I think is not necessarily a joke is perhaps they're not looking for an open concept. Perhaps they do want some walls and doors, because everyone's going to have their own screen time going on. I mean, the older kid and the younger kid may have like an iPad in front of them, but they're all going to want different things from that house. They're also buying the largest floor plan, not too surprising, because they have a house full of people. So shifting gears completely, one of the things that we've taken a dive into is looking at our vet and military population and purchasing homes. So we have an entire report devoted to this. If this is a population that you're specifically targeting and working with, you can absolutely pick that up for free. And what we see is that 18% of recent buyers are veterans and a few percent are active military. Less common for them, they're moving more often. But we see some really interesting changes and differences between these generations. Our veterans, obviously older, our active military younger, but they're younger and they're purchasing homes. They're also much more common to purchase a multi-generational home. So they're purchasing, taking care of mom and dad in their home as well. They absolutely rely on you. They use you and they seek you out when they go to purchase a home. And they do that because they don't know the neighborhood, they don't know the area, they're both moving very long distances. And so their reliance on you and their use of you is very, very high. So if you want to check out that report, if that is a targeted demographic that you're looking for, we have a lot of information on them. Buyers who purchase a distressed sale, is anyone targeting this population? Because they are absolutely coming back too. And they absolutely have needs. So these boomerang buyers, someone who sold a foreclosure or a short sale in the past, and now they're back to the market. It's 6 years later. They did have a distressed sale, but they are coming back. This is very common among Gen Xers. So those Gen Xers are always that forgotten generation. They're between the millennials, Gen Yers, same thing, Then there's the Gen Xers, then there's baby boomers, but no one ever talks about the Gen Xers. Who cares about them? Well, we should care because they actually were likely to purchase their first home in the height of the housing market, right before the crash happened. So they are absolutely impacted by this. They are coming back to the market. We do see them coming back, but they also are likely to have a lot of pressures. So they're likely to have those childcare costs because they are the most likely to have children in their home. They are likely to have credit card debt, to have car loans. So really when you're working with them, be cognizant. One of the things that's very interesting about our Gen Xers is that school's the top priority. They don't care how long their commute is, they don't care where they live exactly, but the schools are the biggest priority. So that's something that's very, very interesting about them. Our LGBT buyers, so we started collecting this information as well, and we see that about half are couples, so unmarried or married couples in the market, and about half are first-time home buyers. But what's really interesting about them is all of this different segmentation among buyer types. They're the most commonly type of buyer to use you. They're going to seek you out, and it's likely because they're young, they are first-time home buyers in the market, and they absolutely want your help. They also have double buying power because they're a couple, so probably not a bad buyer to be working with. Senior-related housing. All right, I'm jumping around a lot here. Senior-related housing. We started collecting this, I think, in 2010, and every year we've seen this share go up. It's steadily increasing. We do see that among our silent generation, those who are 70 to 90, they're the most likely to actually purchase in senior-related living. But we do see that the house type is different. And that makes sense. Single floor plan, a condo, something that's in a small town or resort area. These are very common purchases. All right, transitioning over from buyer types to what they're buying and the reasons. So one of the things that was really interesting in our generational trends report this year is that we found that millennials are actually purchasing in the suburbs. Shock. We may be revitalizing our cities. We actually find that they are, and every generation is more likely to purchase in the suburbs than anywhere else. And we find this nationwide. We find this on a regional level as well. And it's affordability. It's really expensive to purchase in the cities, and you have such a small floor plan. But then it also comes down to schools. So even among our millennials, many have children under the age of 18, or they plan to, and so they're thinking forward into what are the good school districts. And I think really until we start revitalizing our schools within downtown, they're probably going to be lagging behind a little bit in the purchasing desire there. One of the things that's talked about a lot is, okay, these tiny, tiny, tiny condos that are 300, 400 square feet, where you have these movable beds and they transform into your dining room table and that transforms into your kitchen, and they all like have this, I don't know, something crazy that's happening there. And you don't have to ever make breakfast for yourself, because if you go downstairs, breakfast will be waiting, and sometimes dinner and happy hour, and your condo building will provide that all for you, and it's just like your dorm, and they do your dry cleaning. You never have to do your laundry. So these are talked about a lot in the media. They're not actually that common when people go to purchase homes. People really don't purchase condos like that. I mean, it sounds lovely. I would like to never do my laundry. Probably not realistic though, ever. And we see that really our seniors are the ones who are most likely to purchase in a condo. Really, every other generation does want a single family home. They do actually want to purchase in the burbs, and they want to be like mom and dad. So we do see that across all generations. Commuting costs, important-ish. I will say they're important until you weigh it in a list, until you put schools on the list. That really is the driver for most buyers who are out there. And we see that schools are a factor that's not going to be compromised on for a lot of buyers. And if it's not schools, say you're someone who's older or someone who does not plan on having kids, or the kids are out of the household and it's not schools, community costs are up there. But so are health features and entertainment features and things around your community that aren't just your commuting distance. We ask a question on environmental features as well, and heating and cooling costs consistently for the last 10 years that I've been at NAR has been at the top of the list, and that really affects people's pocketbooks at the end of the month. So talking to them about your all-encompassing costs of a home, they're probably nervous, especially if they're a first-time home buyer, or if they're buying an older home, and they're saying, I don't know what's gonna be involved in that, or they're moving from an older home to a newer home, and understanding what is your actual cost at the end of the month. May not know that exactly, but it might be helpful to help them find that out. All right, our remodeling impact report. This was a really fun report that we did this year. It's based on 3 different surveys, and we looked at remodelers' costs to do a project. And then we looked at our members, and you may have received the survey, and we asked you, what would be the increased value, the value recouped in your home and recovered on this project if you were working with a buyer or a seller to actually sell this home? And we gave them specs, and they were pretty detailed. And we had a consultant write up all the specs of the square footage and everything like that. Didn't understand half the words that went in there, but apparently you guys did, which is great. And we asked the remodelers what it would cost, what it would have recovered, new roofing, top of the list, hardwood flooring refinishing, not an expensive project, and something that recovers 100% of the cost. It's pretty in photos. When you have a buyer and you're going into that home, you can absolutely see that sparkle right away. It's gonna hit you as soon as you walk in. My advice for this report, at least, is to take that. If you have someone with that shag carpeting they won't get rid of, and you're working with that seller, they're like, I'm never gonna get the money back. You might not get all of it back. This is a nationwide survey, but it at least helps them understand you could get quite a bit of it back, and it could help your home sell faster for a higher price overall. We could attract more people, more foot traffic in, as opposed to walking into that home and realizing, oh my goodness, there's so many tasks I have to undertake. But if you're working conversely with that buyer and you're saying, okay, there are a lot of tasks that you might have to take on in this home, but you're buying this for affordability, we looked at consumers. That consumers had actually taken on these projects within their homes. And people take on projects for a number of reasons, because something broke in their home, their HVAC unit, obviously you need to fix that, or because you just wanna be unique and different. That's actually what we found for our younger generation. They actually are that special snowflake that they want to make their home a unique and different place. But they add joy. You're more willing to cook in your new kitchen. You really enjoy your house when you're getting ready in the morning with that new bathroom. So we asked them those things as well. And it's a pretty silly, to a certain extent, study, but at the same time, it does give us a good understanding, because remodeling is such an all-encompassing project. It's not just about buying and selling, it's about really enjoying that home once you move into it as well. So one of the changes that we've seen with this study is tenure. So when you work with a buyer today, you might not see them for a while. I will say this is expected tenure. So people move with life changes. They move because they have a baby. They move because they got married and they're living in that tiny condo. They move for a number of reasons. And a work change is on the top of the list often. So the expected tenure is always a little bit longer, but people are expecting to live there longer. And one of the reasons is when we look at homes that were purchased in the same time period, 2007 to 2015, we actually find they're 150 square foot larger, especially for our younger buyers. They're buying a slightly larger home, and perhaps they saved a little longer. Perhaps they wanted that added bedroom because they are planning with those low interest rates, once you're in, you're in. We've also seen that the seller tenure in home has increased. We're seeing it drop off. So people were locked in. Many were underwater. Many could not move, even if they wanted to. So they did stay in a home that perhaps they wanted to sell earlier than they could have. And we do collect that data as well. We find that's very common among our Gen Xers who purchased. But we are starting to see that drop off. I'll be interested to see the results this year to see if that trend continues back to the 6 or 7 years, in which case there will start to be some turnover, which will be very good and loosen up some inventory. All right. Wake up. Sounds like a very nice alarm to wake up to. All right. Okay, so the type of search process has absolutely changed. We know this. You guys all probably have to have mobile-ready sites. They're texting you now instead of calling you. They want to have this conversation beforehand so they know whether they have to receive your calls or not. I would absolutely encourage that conversation beforehand. But we know the search process is also changing, as well as their relationship with you and technology. And people are searching on their mobile device to look for a home. But when they're searching online for properties, they're not necessarily searching for their agent online. I will say that. And I will show you a chart later that does show that as well. It really is an old school business. People really do want those personal referrals, and I'll go into detail on that. But to look at the home search process, people are comfortable looking for homes. They're comfortable showing mom and dad the home that they want to look at. They're comfortable sending you the link and to show you the home, but they're really not comfortable with the agent part of that. These are all very common. We know that photos work. We know that virtual tours work. We know that it helps sell a home faster if you have light and bright and beautiful photos. And I'm sure you guys all work with a photographer who does magic and wonders, or you guys have trained yourselves to do that. Because it really does help. And virtual tours is very interesting. That's been increasing as well. When we look at ages, though, if you're working with someone who's a little older, they're actually going to prefer the virtual tours over someone who's younger. They don't necessarily want to hop in their car and get out there and go and look at that place, and they could be moving a longer distance. So it would be very difficult for them to actually do that as well. So real estate really is a relationship. And people rely on their relationship with you when they go to find someone. So we know from our member profile that most of real estate business actually does come from referrals and repeat customers coming back to you. But we also know from our home buyers and sellers that they only contact one agent during their home search process. So instead of having 3 people come in and give them bids, like we would always recommend for anything that we do, they really just contact one person. And really it's because they've been referred to. They've gone to a housewarming. They've gone, wow, I really want to live in this community. Who helped you get this? And so they ask and they go forward with that. Or they're working with someone who was referred to at work, or they go back to you and they say, hey, it's been a while. I'm finally moving again. I just had a baby. I had a promotion. I changed jobs. Can you help me find a new home? You guys really, really help right now. And I know that it is an extremely difficult process for people right now with tight inventory. Homes going in one day, in 1 week, very quickly, before you can even see them, before you can put the contract down. And it really becomes a communications business where you really have to stay on top of it, but then also really nurture that client in going through that process. And they are saying that the most difficult task is really finding the right property right now with such tight inventory. All right, one of the things that in all of these changing demographics and this changing environment, one of the things that's not changing is you guys. You guys are working with them and they want to come to you. They absolutely are using you more than ever before. We actually see that on the buyer side, we're at a high now of 87% of buyers are working with an agent to purchase a home. So they don't want to go directly to a FSBO. They don't feel comfortable with that. They don't want to go directly to a builder, sorry, an AHB, but they are working with agents, and you guys know that, or you wouldn't have the partnership to purchase that home. We actually see all of these other things are really at the bottom level right now. One of the other things that we've seen is that on the seller side, it's very surprising to me every time we get this data back, but it really speaks to what you guys provide. We see that FSBOs are at an all-time low. Only 8% of sales nationwide are via FSBO, for sale by owner. That's it, 8. That's nothing. It's hardly anyone. And those who are people who have an arm's length transaction. I know that person, my uncle is selling that house, so I'm gonna buy that house from them. I'm gonna have an attorney involved, but I'm not necessarily gonna have an agent involved because I know them. And so half of those FSBO sales are not really FSBO sales, it's a transfer between someone else. That they know. So this is very interesting. This is an all-time high that 89% of sellers are working with a realtor through their process. Incredible. You guys should be very proud of yourselves right now. Pat on the back, please. Yes. And they're very satisfied when they go through that process and they want to work with you again. In fact, on both the buyer and on the seller side, even though this data is collected within 1 year, they've already recommended that their agent work with one other person. One other person. That's great. Many of them are more than that. I mean, I don't know that many people on a year-to-year basis who are buying or selling. I do have an agent who I would recommend, but it's very interesting. One person, and so it's just added sales every time. All right, that's what I have for my official presentation. So questions, I am happy to take them. Did I put you guys all to sleep? The alarm woke you up. I mean, you guys are all awake now. It was a beautiful alarm. There has to be one. Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Is there any tracking, and I don't know how you would, of off-MLS listings? Are those sometimes don't tend to fit those, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So we do break down on the seller basis, whether they're using an all-encompassing seller who does all of the products and services that you would think of, or whether you're just using a just straight MLS. And so we do find that it is pretty unchanging. People really do want the broad range of services. They want the marketing and the open house and the finding the buyer. We do find that. We don't find necessarily, that would be really on the FSBA side, that you're not using anyone to help you during that process. So we do track that, and we're really not seeing, they want the traditional realtor out with them. Yes?
I've been seeing a lot of buyers preferring one-level homes.
Mm-hmm.
That's younger and older. Is that a trend also?
So we do collect that. We see that a lot among single females too, where perhaps they're thinking ahead and they want to live there for an extended period of time. We do see, and there's a lot of studies out there about it, aging in place. And so among our older generations, even if you're 80 years old, you're planning on living there for 20 more years. Okay, that's awesome, you go you. But we are seeing that because there's a lot of people who do want to, they could just be planning ahead, that they know that the stairs are going to be difficult later in life, the upkeep, bringing the laundry up and down, all of these things really fall into that. Yes?
Is there any data collected on what people are willing to give up in order to save for a first-time home or an upgrade?
Yes, so we do collect data on that. We do find that a lot of people make financial sacrifices, and they're willing to give up those entertainment costs. They're willing to take on a second job. We have that all broken down. Clothing costs, very common. Selling a car, not going on vacation. All of these things are all in the list, and it's really interesting when you break that by demographic. Our repeat buyers, when they do have equity in their home, they're not going to necessarily make those sacrifices, but our first-time buyers, they absolutely are. And those who have student loan debt are actually making the most sacrifices. So they are cutting on everything else, paying down that debt and saving at the same time. So they're really just, and I think that really speaks to the value of homeownership to them as well. And that's really unwavering because they're willing to do this. They're willing to not go to Cancun for a week, which sounds great, but they're willing to not do that to purchase a home. We did ask the number of effects too from your student loan debt overall from that ASA SALT study. And we found that the number one effect that is affected by your student loan debt, number one is taking a vacation. Number two is buying a house, and then everything else follows. Starting your business or choosing a better job, continuing with your education, starting a family, those are all below the home ownership. So vacation one, home two. And I think that's something that we can empathize with. More questions? All right, well, I'm here. I have my card too. And if you guys want to contact, if you like what I said, that's great. If you didn't like what I said, there's a lot of other economists in the department, and they all have various specialties, so all the information can be found on Economist Outlook as well. And we do try and post about 5 times a day. So, all right. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Jessica. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you coming and the information you shared with us. I guess it's going to be on, this presentation will be on gcar.net sometime. It's a couple days soon, somewhat soon is what I've been told. So, so you can go there and get it. And yeah, on behalf of the Association of Realtors and the home builders, thank y'all for coming, and y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you.